So I was in Hitachi City, Hitachi-shi, to be a consultant in the end for Hitachi Works, Hitachi Kojo. Hitachi Kojo means factory, so they call it Works. Um, you can see that in the middle of this is a big green patch, like a garden, and you can see there's like a little parking lot or something on the left, kind of on the left-hand side of that. These are two bomb craters left over from World War II, I was told when I was there. And I don't remember which of these buildings I worked in. I all I remember is I think it was on the where it says Saiwacho. It's on that side of the buildings, and when I'd leave at the end of the day, I'd come out on that National Route 245. All right. So I consulted for Hitachi Kojo from 1985 through 1997, and my trips were pretty much the same. I would get there. I would get. I would go to Japan for 3 weeks and then come back. And most of it, I was, in Tokyo for like 2 days and come up on the Monday of the first week. And then I would work 7 days a week until I left on the last day. And this set of pictures, these Polaroids, were taken on February 28th, 1985, which is the Friday of the last day I was at Hitachi Kojo. And this was a commemorative picture. The day before, the 27th, this entire group, plus the head of the Hitachi Kojo and the second in command, the third in command, we all went out to dinner, and we got done with dinner early at 9 o'clock, and then we went out drinking till 3 o'clock in the morning, and we had to be back at 8:30 in the morning to get the company pictures taken, which are these pictures. So I got home. I kind of got to sleep by like 4 a.m. and I had to get up about 8 a.m. to go into the company. So you kind of look at the top left. I'm kind of leaning back there. I'm in front of a silicon graphics machine, which has the Hitachi logo on it. And what I did with this group is I taught them how to program Iris GL on the SGI machines. I think they had the Iris 1400s and 2400s at that time, which had about 2 MB of memory and had, I don't know, a very slow processor. I mean, it's probably 1 MIPS processor at this point in time, if I recall correctly. So I'm there. I don't remember many of the names anymore. I just remember they were wonderful people and I had a great time. The only one I remember is Nakamura-san, who's the guy wearing the gray coat in the upper right-hand side and the left in the first two pictures in the top. And he was kind of the head of this group of people that we work with. And I went there to teach them how to use Iris GL. And because this group at Hitachi Kojo, they design nuclear power plants, and they made plastic models, full quarter scale plastic models of the power plants. I think it was quarter scale. And whenever they changed a power line or a pipe inside of the real plant, they had to, the Japanese regulatory agency required that they put that plastic pipe and plastic wire into the plastic model. And so this is 1985, and these guys were thinking, well, we really should build a CAD system so we can design our nuclear power plants with that CAD system. And so my work with this group over 3 years was to help them build a 300-person software development team to go and build a CAD system that Hitachi could use to design nuclear power plants. Okay, these are just blown up versions of those pictures. And you can see me. It's funny because back then I wore a tie all the time. Probably none of you have ever seen me wear a tie, except for maybe once or twice in years and years. So this group was fun. I do remember a story they told me, which I thought was great, is I think in the first Sunday, so this group, I asked them, they said we're going to work on Sundays. I said, really? I said, did you ever get a day off? And they go, we get one Sunday a month off at this time. And one of the things that I learned is you can't leave work until the big boss has gone home. And the person who tells you that you can go home is the second in command. So the big boss was a guy named Yoshinaga-san, and a very imperial guy, very friendly guy too. Underneath him was Okoshi-san, who was a very tense guy, and under him, I think it was Kawahata-san, and he was the third in line. And his English was really good, and they're planning on paying his way to go to Stanford to get more education, if I recall correctly. And so this was a fun and interesting group to work with. Again, this is me. You can look at the back of my head and there's hair. Look at that. Pretty funny. Anyway, all right, let's move on. So in 1987, I met with another group of engineers who were at Hitachi Plant Construction and Engineering, and they said, we're going to invite you next year. And so they put me in their budget to work for them from 1988 through 1996. After 3 years at Hitachi Kojo, I mean, the first year I taught them Iris GL. The second year they asked me if I could teach them lighting and shading and computer graphics with Iris GL. And the third year they asked me, could I teach them how to do networking, because they wanted to take 16 silicon graphics machines and stack the monitors in a 4x4 array, and they wanted them all to be linked up so that they could have a high resolution walkthrough of the power plant on this big multi workstation screen. I wrote the software for that. And that was in 1987, and that was how I got into networking virtual environments. All right. Okay, Otsuka. Otsuka is part of Tokyo. So what I would do is I'd start my day at uh, Hamamatsucho on the JR line, and I would take the JR line until I got to Otsuka, and I'd get off at Otsuka. And when I got off at Otsuka, I would go to this building, which is the Imai Mitsubishi building, and that is where Hitachi Plant Construction Engineering was at the time. And usually, when I would be there would be February, and getting onto the JR line, there was no air conditioning. And you would be squeezed in with people totally, and I would be a sweatball by the time I got to work at that day. So this is Kazuo Kota and me. I cut out the piece before, and this is the Hitachi Plant Construction and Engineering team. And I do not remember what year this picture was. This picture is, I think, 1988, but it could be 1988 or any year between 88 through 96. This group brought me in to Japan just a huge number of times. In fact, over my career going to Japan, I was in Japan 21 times from 1985 through 1997. That's a lot. I had to get a new passport just because I ran out of pages. All right. In the upper left-hand corner of this picture is a young guy named Umehara. Sometimes they called him Umebara or Umechan, and he was the head of the engineering group that I work with. His two upper-level bosses are the two middle older gentlemen standing up, and I'm trying to think. I think their third in command is the guy in the far right, and then the engineers that I actually work with are Umehara, the other guy with the other gentleman sitting right underneath him, and so it was kind of fun. This group was great because they wanted me to teach them how to use the silicon graphics machines, teach them Iris GL, teach them networking, all of the things I'd done for Hitachi Kojo. And then some of these trips where they'd say, can you come here for 3 weeks? I said, what are we going to do? This is just coming these days. We'll figure out what you're going to do when you get here. We've got an office for you, so bring your own work, and you can just kind of hang out in an office. We're planning on having a meeting with you, but we don't know what day it's going to be. Just be here for 3 weeks so that we can figure out what day. And it would be like, I'd ask every day, is it today? And they go, no, it's not today. And they would take me out to lunch. And this is how I learned to eat so fast, is their lunches, all of these guys are smokers. And what they wanted to do was be in the restaurant at 12 noon and finish eating at 12:05. So we'd go and get like eel with the sauce on top and put on top of rice. And we would learn how to eat that in 5 minutes because they wanted 55 minutes to smoke. In fact, by the way, when I first got to Japan in 1985, they had a big sign on the wall at Hitachi Kojo, and it said, every other hour you can't smoke, but other hours you could smoke, because it was killing the hard drives of their workstations. It's just pretty funny to think. Probably none of you who are watching this has been in a company that had active cigarette smokers. And in fact, Hitachi Plant Construction Engineering, when I got there, they were times had changed in Japan. You had to go home at 6 p.m. At 5 p.m., you started taking all the trash that was near your desk and bagging it up so it could be picked up by the cleaning crew. And you had to sit there till 6. And at 6, they would play some bells and you all left at the same time, which was just totally amazing. When I was at Hitachi Kojo, we were there till 9, 10, 11. And what I learned is when they were there to 11, they still had to take me out to dinner for an hour and a half. And the trains all stopped running at midnight. So they would take some capsule hotel space and show up the next day in the same clothes. It was kind of, so that's why I learned Japanese, by the way, was so I could take care of myself. They could go home at the end of the workday. I could go out and eat dinner by myself. And that's where what happened. Sumihara, he has great fun. He's got a super great sense of humor and can do humor in English, which is great. Um, Gentleman on the left with the mustache and glasses. This is Mohammed Osman, who is from Syria, and he is an HVAC engineer. So this part of Hitachi Plant Construction Engineering, they designed substations for power plants, not that work with the nuclear power plants. And so I think Mohammed Osman is connected to me on LinkedIn, and he's in Dubai now, and he's like the president of Hitachi Plant Construction uh, for Middle East, for MENA. This is me again. There I am, looking very young and thin, size 42 jacket. In those days, I'm now size 48 jacket for having worked at Gold's Gym as trying to compete as a bodybuilder for like 9 years. Anyway, this is Umihara. He's fun. This is kind of what the lab work looks like at HPCE. And you could see all these engineers sitting in front of silicon graphics machines at this time. They bought 300 machines. So this is a pretty great group here in terms of that. Oh, when I would go to work, this is what the JR line would look like. It would just be totally, totally packed. It would turn into a sweat ball. All right. So those are the things I would do in Japan. In the end, I consulted for 21 different companies in Japan. I did Hitachi, Kojo, Hitachi Plant Construction Engineering, Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Ishikawa Harima Industries. I helped found Nihon Silicon Graphics Kabushiki Kaisha, and they did that in coordination with Japan Tech Services. So it was great. I went to a lot of places in Japan by myself, pretty much. I believe this is Asakusa Kannon Temple, and it's just all this really cool stuff. And what you learn is this is in Tokyo. Everything in Tokyo was burned to the ground during World War II. So this is all rebuilt after the war. These pictures are kind of in random order. This is the Wako building, which is a store. It is in the Ginza. It's very 1930s look. This is again, just to show you what does Tokyo look like. When people are crossing the street, this is what it looks like. You can't drive through it. You just have a huge bunch of people to go through. I'm in Tokyo Tower taking this picture, I believe, of this is a cemetery, and people are buried standing up there, and they have little statues and sticks that go into the grave. Geronimo Shadpar, I just thought that was a cool picture. I think it was out of business when I took this picture. This is in Otsuka. One day they said, "Oh, you're interested in games. Let's go out and play games." So we went out and played these Capcom games uh, over in an arcade that was near their offices, and this is great fun. So.